All right, welcome to another fun, eventful day of taking notes on solving equations. We have moved on to multi-step equations, so we're going to start in our table of contents. Depending on the day that you'll take these, it may be on Wednesday or Thursday. We're going to label it 9-2, and it's going to be multi-step equations. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to work this down to, it turns into a two-step, but we have to do a little bit of extra work before we can get there. So again, we're trying to solve any type of equation. Our goal this time is to solve equations when the variable's on both sides. So we'll have an x on one side and an x on the other side. Our steps are the same. Number one, we're going to simplify. Number two, we're going to draw that split line down the equal sign. But this time, because we have variables on both sides, we actually have to put our variables together, and we're going to move the small variable to the big variable. And I'll explain what that means by small variable and big variable. I'm actually talking about their coefficients. And then after we get down to one variable, so we're going to kind of combine our variables, we're going to make sure that it ends up on the left side, and then we're going to use our inverse operations, looking for adding and subtracting first, and then multiplying and dividing second, just like in a two-step. So we're going to jump right into examples. What you do to one side, remember you must do to the other, and we're going to start with our level 1 examples. So step 1 is to simplify. Both sides of our equation are already simplified. We can't mix anything just yet. So we're going to split our equation down our equal sign. And now I want to move. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for between 5x and 3x, which one is bigger. So if I think about coefficients, 5x's is bigger than 3x's. So what I'm actually going to want to do is use that inverse operation, and since this is a positive 3x, to move it to the other side, I have to do negative 3x. So I'm going to take the x with it because I want to get one set of x. I don't want to have it on both sides. I can't do anything with that. So it goes away on the right side, and so if I take 5x's and I take away 3, I'm left with 2x. I drop down my plus 9, and that equals 21 that I dropped down. Okay. And so now hopefully you recognize that it's turned into your normal two-step equation. Okay. So again, I'm going to look for my plus and minus first. So I'm adding 9. So to move it to the other side, I have to do minus 9. And if I do it to one side, I have to do it to the other side. A positive 9 minus 9 cancels out. I drop down my 2x. 21 take away 9 is, I believe, 12. 21, 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12. I was right if I double check it. So my second one. So this time, I don't have a plus sign, I don't have a minus sign, I don't have a fraction, so that tells me that I'm multiplying. So to get rid of my multiplying by 2, I have to divide by 2. And again, if I do it to one side, I have to do it to the other side. Times 2 divided by 2 cancels out, and I'm left with x equals 12 divided by 2 is 6. Example 2. Again, since it's level 1, both sides are already simplified for us. So I'm going to split down my equal sign. So I have a left side and a right side. And again, I have to find my bigger variable. So between 4m and 7m, the bigger side this time is 7m. So I want to move my 4m's into my 7. But since he's a positive 4m, I have to subtract him to move to the other side. So anytime I move across that line, I have to do my inverse operations. So I get completely rid of my m's on the left. I drop down my negative 6. Don't forget that negative. Equals 7 m's. Take away 4 m's is 3 m's plus 3. And you'll notice that the reason we always move it to the bigger one is it will always end up positive. That's the reason that we want to do that. So we have another step this time because our variable ended up on the right, so we have to switch the sides. And again, I can just rewrite it. So I have 3m plus 3, and it switches with my negative 6. So nothing changed, I just moved it right and left. And since they're equal, I can do that. So moving into our 2 steps, we want to look for plus and minus first. So we have plus 3. So the inverse of positive 3 is negative 3. What I do to one side, I do to the other. Positive 3 minus 3 cancels out. I drop down 3m, and it equals negative 6 minus 3. So I'm getting more negative, so it equals negative 9. I still have a 3, so I have another one. It's stuck to my m. Since I don't have a plus, a minus, or a fraction, the only thing I'm left with is multiplying. So to undo multiplication, I divide. And I want to divide both sides by 3. Times 3 divided by 3, cancel out. M equals negative 9 divided by 3 is negative, since it's one negative, 3. M equals negative 3. Number 3. So again, it's a level 1, so we don't have to combine or simplify. So I split it. This is the tricky one, though, because I have negative 2w and negative 4w. So sometimes it works better to think of it as money. So negative 2 means I owe somebody 2, and negative 4 means I owe somebody 4. So actually on this side, even though it doesn't really look like it, negative 2 is a bigger number than negative 4. Okay, and since he's negative, to do the inverse, I'm going to add 4 w's to both sides. And notice how I'm adding it to my like terms. I'm adding my w's together. So minus 4w plus 4w cancels out. And negative 2w's plus 4w's turns it into a positive 2w's. And I'm going to drop down my minus, or my negative 8, excuse me, plus 2w's equals, drop down my negative 12. Don't forget that that sign to the left goes with the term. Okay. So I've put my variables together, so now I can... Sorry, that was the bell for the next class. I've got my variables together, so now it turns into a 2-step. So I'm going to look for if I add or subtract anything first. Okay? So in this case, I'm actually adding negative 8 to 2w. So I'm going to subtract a negative 8. Oh, that's really weird to say subtract negative 8. So if I have a negative and a minus, it actually turns into a positive, which makes sense because negative 8 plus 8 cancels out. So I'm going to add 8. So remember, that was the tricky ones that we looked at in class. So negative 8 plus 8 goes away. I drop down my 2w, and I get negative 12 plus 8. So negative 12, and I'm adding 8, gives me negative 4. Again, my 2 is stuck to my w, so it's 2 times w. So to undo multiplying by 2, I want to divide by 2. 2 on top, 2 on the bottom, cancel out. W equals negative 4 divided by 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. And since I have a negative, it stays negative. So W equals negative 2. So our solution is negative 2. All right, number 4. So this is our last level 1. So it's simplified on both sides. So I'm going to split it down its equal sign. And again, so we just talked about these negatives. Okay? So again, thinking about what you want to owe. Would you rather owe $3 or would you rather owe $5? So hopefully you said you'd rather row 3 because it's less. So negative 3 is considered to be bigger than negative 5. So we're going to add 5a, because it's the opposite, to both sides. And then we can see that negative 5a plus 5a cancels out. Negative 3a plus 5a gives me 2a. So again, it turns positive. So that's why we always want to move to the bigger side. I'm going to drop down my positive 7 equals 2a, and then drop down my minus 3. So all the pieces I didn't use, I just dropped down. And again, we want to check. We always want that variable on the left side, because that's how we say things. We say a equals, x equals, m equals, and we always read it from left to right. So we've got to switch the order. 2a minus 3 equals 7. So the left and the right side just switch sides. Okay? And we can do it because they are equivalent. So looking for plus or minus first, we have minus 3. So the inverse of minus 3 is plus 3. If I do it to one side, I do it to the other side. Minus 3 plus 3 cancels out. I'm left with 2a on the left. 7 plus 3, 7, 8, 9, 10. And again, I have 2a, so it's 2 times a, because there's no plus sign, there's no minus sign, and there's no division or fraction. So to undo 2 times a, I divide by 2. What I do to one side, I do to the other. My 2's cancel out, and I'm left with a equals 10 divided by 2 is 5. Woo! All right, last one, and it is a level 2, so we're adding in that idea of simplifying before we can actually solve. Okay, so we have to simplify these sides. So if we look at this, I'm actually going to use pink since I've already used green. So on the left side of my equal sign, I have distribution. So I have 3. I'm going to make my box. And I have 2x on top plus 5 on top, since they are the terms inside. So 3 times 2x is 6, and I can't forget my x. 3 times a positive 5 is a positive 15. And then for the right side of my equation, I have a positive 4x minus an x. So 4x take away an x. So 4x's minus an x leaves me with 3 x's. And then a positive 7 and a positive 5. So 7 plus 5 is a nice positive 12. So let's put all these pieces together. So I'm going to split it so I can keep them organized. On the left side, I have 6x plus 15 equals my 3x plus 12. Ooh, that one was a big step. So now I have to find my larger variable, so my coefficient that's largest. So compared 6x and 3x, my 6x is the biggest, so I'm going to combine it there. So it's a positive 3x, so the inverse is minus 3x. What I do to one side, I do to the other. My positive 3x and negative 3x cancel out. And on the left, 6x take away 3x's, leaves me with 3 positives. I drop down my plus 15. And on the right side, I'm left with equals a positive 12. And remember, mathematicians are lazy, so if we don't have to write it, we don't. So I can just write 12 and understand that it's positive. So I'm going to look for if I add or subtract anything first. So I'm adding 15. The opposite or inverse operation of adding 15 is minus 15. If I do it to one side, I do it to the other. Positive 15 minus 15 cancel. I drop down 3x equals 12 take away 15. So minus 15 is bigger, so it'll be negative, and I get negative 3. So 3x equals negative 3. So 3 and x are stuck together. There's no plus sign, no minus sign, no fraction. So it means that it's 3 times x. So to undo 3 multiplied by x, I divide. And again, what I do to one side, I have to do to the other side. So 3 on top, 3 on the bottom, cancel out. And I'm left with x equals negative 3 over 3. So it doesn't cancel out because it's negative 3. And I'm actually left with negative 1, which is where I get my 1x left over. All right, awesome job. So the next thing I want you to do is you have a U-try. So you have 4 examples. And since you're taking these notes at home, I am not going to give you the answers this time. I want you to have these written down. I want you to try them to the best of your ability, and then we will go over them as they do now tomorrow in class. So hopefully you got all of your notes done, you're ready to go, and we can move through this because I'm really excited that we're finally in this math and we're getting to meet in class. Have a good day.